Hey everyone, this is Tammy Painter, and you're listening to the Book Owl Podcast, the podcast where I entertain your inner book nerd with tales of quirky books and literary lore. And guess what? We've made it to episode 10. And I'm probably more excited about this than you are, because when I was learning about podcasting, all the stats said most shows give up before they even reach 10 episodes. So, hey, I've beaten the odds. Anyway, in this episode, we're just going to have a little fun with embracing our inner book nerd with a little personality quiz and a top 10 list. But before we start, I have a special announcement. I have an audiobook. That's right, if you just can't get enough of my voice, you can now get more of it in fiction format. Okay, so this isn't a full novel. Don't worry, I'm not that ambitious. It's one of my short stories called A Case of Mama's Love, and it's only about 20 minutes long, so I've priced it pretty low. The story took second place in a writing contest from the American Pen Women last year, and it's been published in an anthology by Overland Press. So, it's proven its mettle. Anyway, it's a quick tale of magical realism, and I did have a lot of fun putting on a southern accent to get into character. Of course, if you're not into audiobooks, it's also available as an ebook. Oh, and if you buy the audiobook from my online shop, you'll also get the ebook version for free. And as ever, I'll have all the links you need in the show notes if you're interested in giving it a look. And if you're interested in giving it a listen. Okay, on to the episode. Since it's episode 10, I thought it was only appropriate we do something like a top 10 list. And since we're all crazy about books here, I've come up with my own top 10 ways to determine if you or someone you know is a book nerd. Just in case you were wondering. Okay, if you want to keep score, get a pencil and a scrap of paper handy, because here we go. So, the very first way to determine if you're a book nerd. You remember the title of the very first book you ever read. Do you remember yours? Okay, mine was Are You My Mother by Dr. Seuss, and I remember sitting in the dentist's waiting room, picking up the book, and reading it out loud to my mom. And I'm not even sure if she knew I knew how to read at that point, so it was kind of a shock to her. Anyway, number 2. You sometimes forget your real friends' names and accidentally call them by the name of your favorite fictional characters. So far, I've managed not to do this, but I don't really have any real friends, so I guess that helps. 3. You have trouble closing your suitcase at the end of vacation because you've bought so many books while on your trip. And I am very guilty of this one. I've also been known to map out the bookstores near where I'm staying when I travel. So, yeah, I think I get double points for that one. 4. Speaking of maps, you could map out your favorite bookstore or library from memory. That's a yes for me. I can picture the exact layouts of public libraries from my childhood, school libraries from my teens, and I can whip my way around the maze of Pal's books like a pro. Number 5. You aren't sure if that's a wall or just a stack of books you've brought home from the library. Okay, I personally haven't had this problem, but it sounds like something to aspire to. Number 6. You have, for a few seconds at least, thought having more than one head would be wonderful because then you could read 2 books at once. I really hadn't thought of this until I started writing this episode, but now that I do think of it, where's a mad scientist when you need one? Number 7. If there isn't a book handy, you will read anything at hand that has words on it. Yeah, that's me, and I can highly recommend the backs of cereal boxes. Number 8. You've stopped reading just before a favorite character might die because you honestly think you'll save that character's life if you don't read about his death. What? Like, that doesn't work? Okay. Anyway, number 9. You have imagined a date night with a fictional character. For me, this hasn't really happened in waking life, but I do think I've dreamed about hanging out with a fictional character. My poor brain. And finally, number 10. You're the person everyone hates when a book is made into a movie because you can't help but comment on how the book is different. And by different, you mean better. Okay, I might not be that bad, but when the red wedding scene in Game of Thrones came out and everyone was shocked, okay, yeah, I was one of those people saying, it's been in the book for ages, why are you surprised? Okay, maybe that makes me more of a book snob than a book nerd, but I'll take it. So, how did you do? It looks like I scored 7 out of 10, which I think puts me solidly into book nerd territory. And, of course, I want to know what your scores are, so if you get a chance, drop me a line using the contact info in the show notes, and I'll share your results with the world in a future episode. Alright, that is it for the quiz, but the top 10s aren't quite done. That last book nerd requirement got me kind of wondering about what movies are actually better than the books that they were based on. And for this I turned to Book Riot, and that gang of book lovers came up with this list. And just so you know, this list isn't in any sort of order, it was just kind of as I was going down their list and picking out what I had actually read myself. So, alright, number 1 is I Am Legend by Richard Matheson, and I absolutely agree with this, because I just recently read the novella, and it was so boring. So, skip the book and head straight to the movie on this one. Plus, it's got Will Smith, and you can't go wrong with Will Smith. Alright, number 2 is Remains of the Day by Kazuo Ishiguro. Definitely agree with this one, and it's not just because I love both Anthony Hopkins and Emma Thompson. The movie, it's really engaging, and even though it's kind of slow, you just kind of like really feel for these characters. But the book, well, the book is so dry, you might end up with dehydration halfway through. Number 3 is Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien. And I don't agree with this one. I mean, I love the movie, but the book lends, it has a different perspective, and it really enhances the story in a way that just can't be missed. So, number 4, The Princess Bride by William Goldman. What? Okay, again, I could watch this movie every day for the rest of my life, but to say it's better than the book? No. Both are equally superb, and both feature rodents of unusual size. And don't get me started on the rumors of them remaking this movie, because it's just pure blasphemy. Okay, we better move on. Number 5, The English Patient by Michael Ondaatje. Okay, yeah, I agree with this one wholeheartedly. I liked the book. It's got some lovely language in it, but oh my god, the ending. No. I'm not going to spoil it just in case you haven't read it and want to, but the movie ending is so much better. In the movie, all the relationships are portrayed so much better than in the book. Because in the book, there's no chemistry, and everyone just kind of seems to be in each other's way, almost. Okay, I'm getting a little bit emotional here with those past two, so it's time to move on. Number 6 is Jaws by Peter Benchley. Dun dun. Dun dun. Yeah, I gotta agree with this one. I don't think I've actually ever made it through the book, but the movie is a great bit of sharky fun. Number 7, Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton. I hate to say this because I love Michael Crichton, but I gotta agree with this one. So, a local theater had a showing of Jurassic Park a few years ago, and I forgot how much I loved that movie. So I got home, and I thought, oh, I should reread the book. Big mistake. The book is long, and it's really dull in places, with an overabundance of techie jargon that in most of Crichton's other books he doesn't bog you down with. He kind of explains it like it just kind of works into the story. But in Jurassic Park, it's just like you're being assaulted with it almost. And so the book just doesn't have that punchy pace like the movie does. All right, now that I've insulted a dead man, number 8, Forrest Gump by Winston Groom. Again, boring book, pretty good movie. Not my favorite, but oh well. Number 9, Stand By Me by Stephen King. Okay, most movies created from Stephen King's books, they just seem to fall flat and don't really work. The Shining and Misery were pretty good, but Stand By Me is an exception that just takes the cake. The short story is good, by the way, and you should read it, but you just get so much more of a feel for the time period and the emotions and the characters in the movie. And finally, we come to Bridget Jones' Diary by Helen Fielding. And this is another one where I kind of disagree because they're both great. The book is far more wicked and I might almost say raunchy, but I don't think raunchy is quite the right word. But it's definitely more wicked than the movie, but I love them both. Okay, that is it. 2 top 10 lists. No, I'm not going to do 10 top 10 lists, don't worry. Do you have any thoughts on that list? Or do you have a movie that has forced you to admit that the show was better than the book? And come on, it's okay if you do. Even the strongest book nerds have their weak spots. All right, my bookie friends, that is it for this anniversary episode. Have fun tallying your scores, and don't forget to let me know where your book nerd status stands after taking that test. You can use the link in the show notes to get in touch, or you can just head to thebookowlpodcast.com/contact. And okay, now you know what's coming. It's update time. Woohoo! As for the podcast, remember back in episode, I don't know, it was like 2 or 3, when I said I was going to do episodes every other week, then eventually move to once a week? Well, I've decided the bi-weekly format just works for me. It's easy to stay on top of things without feeling like I'm chasing my tail. Wait, when did I grow a tail? Anyway, so the update really isn't an update. It's just letting you know I'm sticking with the schedule you're used to of putting out an episode every other week. As for writing, this month I'm doing an intense rewrite of the second book in my Cassie Black series. I'm still toying with whether I want to put out book 1 this year or wait until next year, but I have decided to pretty much devote most of my time over the rest of this year, also known as the horrible 2020, to get the trilogy done and ready for publication. And that's going to mean scaling back on a few other writing and marketing tasks, but I'm at the point where I'm eager to see this series wrapped up and ready for the world. So, now that I said that, I better go get my nose to the grindstone. Ouch. Okay, that is it for me. Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and don't forget to check out my little audio story. Have a great rest of your week, and I will hoot at you next time when we'll be going very international by heading to Ireland to learn about an American who was gaga for Asian books and who had a tiff with the British Museum. No, I'm not kidding about all that. All right, that's it. Thanks for listening, guys. The Book Owl Podcast is a production of Daisy Dog Media. Copyright 2020, all rights reserved. The theme music was composed by Kevin MacLeod.